The night sky over Montana burst into flames as something pierced through the clouds. Tom Miller stood on his porch, coffee mug frozen halfway to his lips, as he watched the burning object cut across the stars. Whatever it wasn't any shooting star he'd ever seen. The object crashed into his south field with a boom that made his cattle start bellowing. Tom didn't think twice. He grabbed his emergency kit from beside the door, jumped into his old pickup truck, and drove toward the glowing crash site. "Please don't be on fire. Please don't be on fire," he muttered, thinking about his dry winter grass. The last thing his ranch needed was a wildfire. As he got closer, he saw that the object wasn't burning anymore. Instead, it was a smooth, egg-shaped pod about the size of his truck, its silvery surface dented but mostly intact. Tom grabbed his flashlight and approached carefully. He'd heard all the stories about first contact 5 years ago, but out here in rural Montana, the most alien thing he usually saw was the occasional documentary about the new embassies in major cities. A soft whimper made him freeze. It came from inside the pod. "Hello," he called out. "Anyone in there? Are you hurt?" The whimper turned into a weak cry. Tom noticed a crack in the pod's surface, and through it, he could see movement. Making up his mind, he pulled his tools from the truck and started working on widening the crack. It took him 10 minutes to make a hole big enough to see inside. What he found made his heart skip a beat. A young alien lay curled up in the cramped space, clearly injured. She looked almost like a deer, with soft brown fur and large, frightened eyes, but her face was more human-like, and her front legs were clearly arms. "It's okay," Tom said softly, the way he talked to scared animals. "I'm here to help." The alien girl tried to move away but cried out in pain. Tom could see blood, purple blood, seeping from a wound in her side. "I'm calling for help," he said, pulling out his phone. He dialed 911 first, then remembered the special number for alien emergencies that they'd announced on TV. He called that too. The 911 operator told him to wait for emergency services. The alien emergency line put him through to the local herbivore species embassy. Their response shocked him. "You say a human found her?" the embassy official asked, voice full of disgust. "No, we cannot send help. It would be too dangerous for our medical team to approach with. Carnivorous species present." "She's bleeding out," Tom protested. "You can't just. We recommend you stay away from the crash site. Our kind cannot trust themselves to the mercy of predator species." The line went dead. Tom looked at the injured alien girl, who was watching him with those huge, frightened eyes. He knew what everyone said about humans, that they were dangerous, that their omnivorous nature made them unpredictable, that no herbivorous species should trust them. He also knew that if he didn't help her, she might die. "Okay, little one," he said gently. "I'm going to get you out of there. I promise I won't hurt you." He worked carefully, cutting away more of the pod's shell until he could reach her. She trembled when he touched her, but was too weak to resist as he wrapped her in his jacket. Her fur was soft, like a fawn's, and she was surprisingly light in his arms. As he carried her to his truck, she looked up at his face. "Why?" she whispered in broken English. "You eat meat. Should want to hurt." "That's not how it works, little one," Tom said, laying her carefully across his truck's back seat. "Being able to eat meat doesn't mean we want to hurt anyone. Now let's get you to my house and patch you up." He drove home slowly, careful not to jostle her. In his rearview mirror, he could see her watching him, confusion clear in her expression. Tom knew he was probably breaking a dozen new alien contact laws, but he couldn't bring himself to care. Laws could wait. Right now, someone needed help, and he was going to give it. His daughter Kate would know what to do. She'd been studying alien biology ever since first contact, dreaming of becoming a xenomedic. Between the two of them, they'd figure something out. As his ranch house came into view, Tom made a silent promise to the frightened alien in his backseat. No matter what anyone said about humans being dangerous predators, he would prove that sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do was turn away from someone in need. Kate Miller was just finishing her late-night study session when she heard her father's truck rumbling up the driveway. Something about the sound made her pause. He was driving slower than usual. She went to the window and saw the truck's headlights moving carefully toward the house. "Dad," she called out as she opened the front door. "Is everything okay?" "Kate, get your medical books," Tom said, his voice urgent but calm. "The alien ones." She started to ask why, but then she saw who he was carrying. Her eyes went wide at the sight of the deer-like alien wrapped in her father's jacket, purple blood staining the fabric. "Oh my God," Kate whispered, but her mind was already racing through everything she'd learned. "Get her to the guest room. I'll grab my supplies." They worked together quickly. Kate had been preparing for situations like this ever since she started her medicine studies, though she never expected to use her knowledge in their own home. She cleaned and bandaged the alien's wounds while Tom kept watch. The alien girl drifted in and out of consciousness. When she was awake, her large eyes followed their movements with a mixture of fear and confusion. She tried to speak once, but Kate gently shushed her. "Save your strength," Kate said softly. "You're safe here." As the night went on, their unexpected guest stabilized. Her breathing became more regular, and her pulse, faster than a human's but now steady, stayed strong. Kate sat back, exhausted but satisfied. "She'll need time to heal," she told her father, "but I think she'll make it." Tom nodded, then explained what had happened with the embassy. Kate's face darkened as she listened. "They refused to help because we're omnivores?" she asked, disgusted. That's just wrong." "Keep your voice down," Tom reminded her, glancing at their sleeping patient. "But yes, which means we need to be careful. I don't think they'll come looking here, but we're harboring an injured alien without permission," Kate finished. She looked at the sleeping figure. "We're not turning her away though, right?" Tom smiled at his daughter. "No, we're not." Over the next few days, they fell into a routine. Kate would check on their guest between her online classes, while Tom kept the ranch running as normal to avoid suspicion. They learned that the alien girl could understand English fairly well, though speaking it was harder for her. On the fourth day, she finally told them her name, or at least a sound they could roughly pronounce as star. She also began to trust them enough to eat the food they brought. Fresh vegetables from Kate's garden, and soft fruits they bought from the store. "You really don't want to eat me?" Star asked Kate one afternoon while she was changing her bandages. Kate couldn't help but laugh. "Of course not. Just because we can eat meat doesn't mean we want to eat everyone we meet. Do you want to hurt every plant you see just because you can eat plants?" Star thought about this. "No," she said slowly. "But my people say humans are dangerous, violent." "Some can be," Kate admitted, "but most of us just want to live in peace and help others when we can. Being capable of violence isn't the same as being violent." Star was quiet for a long time after that. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "My people, they say they are peaceful. But they—" She stopped, trembling. "It's okay," Kate said quickly. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to." But that evening, while Tom and Kate were having dinner, they heard the news on their kitchen radio. The local alien embassy was warning all herbivorous species about a dangerous escaped criminal hiding in the area. They claimed she was mentally unstable and needed to be returned to her people for genetic purification. Tom and Kate looked at each other across the table. Now they knew why Star had run, and why she'd been so desperate to escape that she'd risked a crash landing on Earth. "We'll protect her," Tom said firmly. "No matter what." Kate nodded, already thinking about how to better hide their guest. The barn had a hidden cellar from the old days, and with some work, it could become a safe hiding place. They had no way of knowing it then, but their simple act of kindness was about to challenge everything both humans and aliens thought they knew about each other. Star sat in the hidden cellar beneath the barn, watching through a small window as Tom worked with his cattle. Everything she'd been taught about humans told her to be terrified. They were omnivores, meat-eaters, who kept other creatures captive. Yet what she saw confused her more each day. Tom moved among his herd with gentle words and careful touches. When a calf got stuck in the mud, he spent hours helping it and its mother. He fed them, cared for them when they were sick, and protected them from predators. Yes, some would eventually become food. Star had learned this truth early on, but they lived good lives until then. "I don't understand," she told Kate one evening, after watching Tom help a mare give birth. "He eats meat, but he loves his animals. How can both be true?" Kate, who was checking Star's nearly healed wounds, smiled. "Being capable of doing something doesn't mean you enjoy causing pain. Dad respects life. That's why he makes sure all his animals have good lives. That's why he helped you." As days turned into weeks, Star began to see more of this strange truth. She watched from her hiding place as Tom bottle-fed an orphaned lamb, as Kate nursed injured wild birds back to health, and as both humans spent countless hours ensuring their animals were healthy and happy. One day, a mountain lion attacked one of the calves. Star watched, heart pounding, as Tom ran out with his rifle. She expected to see the violent human nature her people always warned about. Instead, she saw him fire warning shots into the air, driving the predator away without harming it. "Why didn't you kill it?" she asked later, when he brought her evening meal. "No need," Tom said simply. "It was just doing what comes naturally, trying to survive. I protected my calf, but that doesn't mean I had to destroy the lion." Star thought about her own people, who claimed to be peaceful plant eaters, yet were hunting her across the stars to purify their bloodline. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her trust grew slowly but steadily. Soon, she was helping Kate in the small greenhouse where they grew vegetables, learning about earth plants and how humans cultivated food. She discovered she loved the taste of tomatoes, and that working with her hands in the soil made her feel peaceful in a way she hadn't felt in years. But their peaceful routine couldn't last forever. The warning came on a quiet afternoon. Star was helping Kate clean the greenhouse windows when they heard the distant hum of an approaching ship. Through the glass, they saw a sleek vessel descending from the clouds, one of her people's scout ships. "Quick," Kate whispered, "to the cellar." They barely made it to the hidden room before the ship landed in the front field. Tom met the visitors at his front gate, 3 tall figures who looked similar to Star, but with paler fur and cold eyes. Through the cellar's ventilation system, Star could hear their conversation. "We tracked dangerous fugitive," one of them said in broken English. "Criminal. Must find for good of species." "Haven't seen any aliens around here," Tom said calmly. "Just my cattle and my daughter." "You are meat eater," another said with disgust. "Cannot trust. Must search property." "Do you have a warrant?" Tom asked, his voice still steady. "Earth laws protect private property. Without proper papers, you're trespassing." Star held her breath, watching through the tiny window. She saw the aliens' faces twist with frustration. They weren't used to being challenged, especially not by a primitive omnivore. "We'll return," the leader said finally. "With papers, with authority. We'll search everything." "You do that," Tom replied. "But remember, this is Earth. We have laws here that protect everyone, even those seeking refuge from persecution." After they left, Star emerged from hiding, shaking. "They'll come back," she whispered. "With others, with permission." "Then we'll be ready," Kate said firmly. "We won't let them take you." Star looked at her human protectors, the dangerous omnivores who had shown her more kindness than her own peaceful people. For the first time since her escape, she felt truly safe. "Thank you," she said softly, "for showing me that what we can do isn't as important as what we choose to do." Tom smiled. "That's a lesson some folks never learn, no matter what they eat." The night after the scouts left, Star couldn't sleep. She paced in her hidden room until Kate came to check on her. Finally, Star made a decision. Her human protectors deserved to know the whole truth. "My people," she began, her voice shaking, "they aren't what they pretend to be." Tom and Kate sat quietly as Star told her story. Her species, the Lumari, had always prided themselves on being pure herbivores. But their scientists had discovered something disturbing. Their ancestors had once been omnivores, like humans. The leaders said this was wrong. Star explained. Said we must remove all traces of predator past. Started testing everyone's genes. She showed them a mark on her arm, a genetic test result that had branded her as impure. Her genes showed stronger traces of their omnivorous ancestry than most. The government had started a program to fix this. "They take children away," she whispered. "Change their genes. Many die. But leaders say it's worth it for pure species." Kate gasped. "That's horrible. How can they do this to their own people?" "They say it's for peace, for purity." Star's voice was bitter. "My parents tried to hide me, but government found out. I had to run." Tom stood up and walked to the window, looking out at his ranch. "So when they say you're a criminal?" "I refused treatment. Escaped. Not first one, but first to get away." Star hugged herself. Others who tried disappeared. Just then, they heard cars approaching. Tom looked through his binoculars and saw 3 black SUVs coming up the road. "Local sheriff," he said, "and some official-looking types." "They're coming for me," Star said, starting to panic. "No," Kate said firmly. "They're not getting you." "Dad, what about the old mining tunnel?" Tom nodded. Years ago, his grandfather had discovered an abandoned mining tunnel that ran under part of the ranch. They'd sealed most of it, but kept one section safe as an emergency shelter. They quickly moved Star through the hidden passage just as vehicles pulled up to the house. Sheriff Brown stepped out, along with 2 men in suits and one of the alien scouts from earlier. "Tom," the sheriff said, looking uncomfortable, "got some folks here need to search your property. They've got papers." Tom took the documents, reading carefully while Kate watched nervously from the porch. The alien scout's eyes darted around, searching for any sign of Star. "These seem in order," Tom said slowly, "but I'll need my lawyer to verify them. And it's almost dark, not safe to search the ranch at night. Lots of holes and dangerous spots. This delay is unacceptable." The alien scout burst out. "Criminal is here. Can smell her." One of the suited men, who introduced himself as Agent Wilson from the State Department, raised his hand. "Let's all stay calm. Mr. Miller, we understand your concern for safety. However, this is a serious diplomatic matter." "I understand," Tom said, "and I'll cooperate fully tomorrow morning, after my lawyer reviews these papers. Until then, my property is private, and that's Earth law." The alien scout started to protest, but Agent Wilson stopped him. "He's right about Earth law. We'll return at dawn." As they drove away, Tom and Kate breathed sighs of relief, but they knew they had only bought a few hours. "We need help," Kate said. "This isn't just about Star anymore. It's about all her people who are being hurt." Tom nodded. "I've got an old Army buddy who works in Washington now. Time to make some calls." In her hiding place, Star listened through the tunnel's ventilation shaft. For the first time, she felt something beyond fear, hope. These humans, these so-called dangerous omnivores, weren't just hiding her. They were ready to fight for her, to expose the truth about her peaceful society's dark secret. As Tom started making calls, Kate brought supplies to the tunnel. "We'll figure this out," she promised Star. "Sometimes the truth needs a safe place to come out, and that's what we're going to give it." Star looked at her friend, this human who her people called dangerous, and saw nothing but determination to help. Maybe, she thought, this was what real peace looked like, not the forced purity her leaders wanted, but the willing protection of those who could choose violence, yet chose kindness instead. Tom's phone call set things in motion faster than anyone expected. By midnight, 3 black helicopters landed in his front field, their lights off and engines quiet. Out stepped Tom's old friend, Colonel Mike Anderson, along with a team of UN representatives and human rights lawyers. "Quite a situation you've got here, Tom," Mike said as they gathered in the living room. "Genetic purification programs, forced modifications, disappearing children. This goes way beyond one refugee." Star sat nervously between Tom and Kate as she told her story again. This time, she shared even more details: names of officials, locations of facilities, and dates of disappearances. The UN representatives recorded everything, their faces growing grimmer with each revelation. "This violates at least 15 interstellar treaties," one of the lawyers said. "The Lumari signed all of them when they joined the Galactic Council. They hide it well," Star explained. "Call it voluntary genetic improvement. But it's not voluntary. Never voluntary." Just then, Sheriff Brown's truck came racing up the driveway, lights flashing. He burst into the house, out of breath. "Tom, 3 alien ships just entered Earth's atmosphere. They're heading this way, and they're bigger than the scout ship." Colonel Anderson immediately started making calls. Within minutes, they could hear fighter jets screaming overhead, taking up defensive positions. "The United Nations hereby declares this ranch a sanctuary zone," one of the UN representatives announced formally, setting up a special beacon. "Any unauthorized entry will be considered an act of aggression against Earth." Star watched in amazement as more vehicles arrived: military trucks, news vans, and even other alien ships. These were different, though, ships belonging to the Galactic Council's peacekeeping force. "More coming," Kate said, looking at her phone. "Social media is exploding. Other Lumari are speaking out, sharing their stories." "You're not alone anymore, Star." Dawn was breaking when the 3 Lumari ships appeared on the horizon. They were massive harvest ships, usually used to collect plant materials from uninhabited worlds. Now they hovered menacingly over the ranch. A voice boomed down from the lead ship. "This is High Commander of Lumari Purity Force. Surrender the genetic deviant immediately." Colonel Anderson stepped forward with a powerful speaker of his own. "This is Earth Defense Force. You are in violation of Galactic Council space. This ranch is a designated sanctuary zone under UN protection. Stand down immediately." "You protect criminal," the commander shouted. "Primitive omnivores cannot understand importance of genetic purity." "No," Star's voice came through the speaker, strong and clear as Kate held it for her. "You are the criminals. I have given evidence of your illegal genetic program to the Galactic Council. Other survivors are coming forward. The truth is out." As if to prove her words, more ships appeared, dozens of them, small private vessels piloted by Lumari refugees who had been hiding across the galaxy. They formed a protective ring around the ranch, joining the human fighters. The Lumari commander's voice wavered. "These are all defective specimens. They must be cleansed." "The only thing that needs cleansing," Tom said into the speaker, "is the hatred in your hearts. We humans may be omnivores, but at least we don't torture our own children in the name of purity." A new voice joined in, the Galactic Council's representative, broadcasting on all frequencies. "Lumari ships, power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You are under investigation for crimes against sentient beings." The tension hung in the air for several long moments. Then, slowly, the Lumari ship's engines dimmed. They had no choice. They were outnumbered by both human and alien forces. Star watched as Galactic Council peacekeepers began boarding the Lumari ships. Around her, more refugee ships were landing, bringing others like her who had finally found the courage to come forward. "Welcome to Sanctuary," Kate said, hugging her friend. "Welcome to freedom." Tom's ranch was no longer just a cattle farm in Montana. It had become something much more important. A symbol of hope, a place where the truth about false peace could be exposed, and where real peace could begin to grow. The next few days at the Miller Ranch were unlike anything Montana had ever seen. The property had become a makeshift refugee camp, with dozens of Lumari sharing their stories with Galactic Council investigators. Each tale was more heartbreaking than the last. Families torn apart, children taken for treatment, generations of fear and silence. Star spent her time helping new arrivals, showing them that they could trust the humans despite everything they've been taught. She watched with pride as Tom and Kate turned their barn into a shelter, sharing their food and supplies without hesitation. But the Lumari government wasn't giving up easily. "They're coming," Colonel Anderson announced one morning, looking at his tactical screens. 5 major ships just entered the solar system. Not harvest ships this time. Warships. Tom looked out over his ranch, now filled with scared refugees. "How long do we have?" 3 hours, maybe 4. The news spread quickly through the camp. Some of the refugees began to panic, but Star stepped forward. "No more running," she said, her voice carrying across the crowd. "These humans risked everything to protect me, to protect us. Now we stand with them." The response surprised everyone. The refugees, who had spent their lives being told they were gentle plant eaters who must avoid violence at all costs, began organizing. They knew the ranch's layout better than anyone now, and they had skills the humans hadn't expected. "Our ancestors weren't just omnivores," one elderly Lumari explained as he helped set up defenses. "They were warriors who fought to protect their homes. The government tried to breed it out of us, but some things run deeper than genes." Kate worked with the refugee children, moving them to the safe rooms in the old mining tunnels. As she helped them settle in, she heard the distant boom of ships entering the atmosphere. Above the ranch, Earth's fighter jets took formation alongside the Galactic Council peacekeepers. On the ground, human military vehicles created a defensive ring around the property. The Lumari refugees stood ready, not with weapons, but with determination. The warships appeared overhead, massive and threatening. A voice thundered down. "This is Supreme Commander of Lumari forces. You shelter genetic aberrations that threaten the purity of our species. Surrender them, or face cleansing." Tom stepped forward with the speaker. "This is Thomas Miller, owner of this ranch. You're trespassing on Earth property and threatening people under UN protection. Leave now." "You are mere omnivores," the commander sneered. "You cannot understand the importance of genetic purity. Your violent nature." "Our violent nature," Tom interrupted. "We're not the ones threatening to cleanse innocent people. We're not the ones experimenting on children. You call us violent because we can eat meat, but we're standing here protecting your people while you're the ones bringing warships." Star took the speaker. "You say humans are dangerous because they're omnivores. But I've seen them care for animals they could eat. I've seen them show mercy to predators that threaten their herds. I've seen them risk everything to protect strangers." She paused, then continued louder. "The real danger isn't in what you can do. It's in what you choose to do. Humans could be violent, but they choose to protect. You could be peaceful, but you choose to hate." The Lumari ships moved lower, charging their weapons. Colonel Anderson raised his hand, ready to order the fighters to engage. But then something unexpected happened. One of the Lumari warships suddenly powered down its weapons. Then another, and another. "This is First Officer of the 3rd Fleet," a new voice announced. We will not fire on our own people. Not anymore." The remaining ships hesitated. On the ground, Star held her breath. "The genetic purification program was wrong," the first officer continued. "We all knew it was wrong, but we were afraid to speak. No more." One by one, the other ships powered down. The Supreme Commander's furious orders went ignored as his own fleet turned against him. Tom lowered the speaker and looked at Star. "Sometimes the strongest weapon isn't force, it's the truth." "And sometimes," Star added, watching the Lumari ships descend peacefully, "the most dangerous thing isn't what you can do to others, but what you can force others to do to themselves." The battle that everyone expected never happened. Instead, something more powerful occurred. The beginning of real change. 1 year had passed since the standoff at Miller Ranch. The old cattle farm had changed a lot since then. New buildings stood alongside the barn, including a medical center and a school. The Galactic Council had officially designated it as Earth's first alien refugee integration center, though most people just called it Sanctuary Ranch. Star stood in the greenhouse, tending to the mix of Earth and Lumari plants that grew there. Through the glass walls, she could see young Lumari children playing with human kids from the nearby town. None of them cared who was an omnivore and who wasn't. Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it? Kate said, joining her with a basket of fresh vegetables. Star smiled. A year ago, I thought I'd spend my life running. Now look at this place. The changes weren't just at the ranch. The exposure of the genetic purification program had shaken Lumari society to its core. The old government had fallen, replaced by reformers who promised to end all forced genetic modifications. Many of the scientists who had run the program were now facing trial before the Galactic Council. But more importantly, attitudes were changing. Tom's ranch had become proof that humans and Lumari could not only coexist but thrive together. The sight of dangerous omnivores dedicating themselves to protecting and helping herbivore refugees had challenged centuries of prejudice. "Mail's here," Tom called out, walking into the greenhouse with a stack of letters. "Got another bunch of thank you notes from families who've been reunited." Star took the letters, recognizing some of the names. Many Lumari who had been declared genetically impure and separated from their families were finally finding their way home. The ranch helped them reconnect and heal. "Also got this," Tom said, holding up an official-looking document. The Galactic Council's final ruling on the Sanctuary program. Star held her breath as she read it. The Council had not only made the ranch's sanctuary status permanent, but was using it as a model for similar centers across Earth and other worlds. The document praised humanity's unique perspective as omnivores in bridging the gap between different species. "They finally understand," Star said softly. "Being able to do something doesn't determine what you will do. It's about choice." Just then, they heard excited shouts from outside. A small ship was landing in the designated arrival area. Another family coming to find their lost relatives. Star hurried out to greet them, remembering how scared and confused she had been when she first crashed here. The ship's door opened, and a young Lumari stepped out, trembling. Star recognized the look in his eyes. The same fear she had felt, the same uncertainty about trusting humans. "Welcome to Earth," she said gently. "You're safe here." Tom and Kate stood beside her as she explained everything to the newcomer. She told him about how these humans, these supposed dangerous predators, had risked everything to protect her. How they had shown her that true peace wasn't about forcing everyone to be the same, but about choosing to accept and protect those who were different. As the sun set over the ranch, Star watched the new arrival slowly relax as he met other refugees and saw humans and Lumari working together. In the distance, the cattle grazed peacefully, earth birds flew overhead, and the greenhouse plants reached toward the sky. All different species coexisting, each in their own way. "You know," Tom said, putting an arm around Star's shoulders, "when I first found you in that crashed pod, I never imagined it would lead to all this. When you first found me, I thought being found by an omnivore was the worst thing that could happen." Star replied with a laugh. "I'm glad I was wrong." Kate joined them, holding up her phone. "Look at this. The Lumari Science Academy just announced they're starting a new research program. They're studying their omnivorous ancestors not to eliminate those traits, but to understand them. They're calling it the Path to True Peace Project." Star looked around at her new home, at the place where a simple act of kindness had grown into something that was changing worlds. Perhaps that was the greatest lesson of all. True strength wasn't in dominating others or forcing them to change, but in having the courage to protect those in need and the wisdom to learn from those who were different. "So," Tom asked with a smile, ready to help welcome our next guest. Star nodded. She was ready. After all, every new arrival was another chance to show the galaxy that peace wasn't about what you could or couldn't do. It was about what you chose to do.